And I can't find a seconder usually when I propose this, but I don't care. I don't need a seconder. My opinion is enough for me, and I claim the right to have it defended against any consensus, any majority, anywhere, any place, any time. And anyone who disagrees with this can pick a number, get online, and kiss my hand.
No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed are greater than the legal services provided by other lawyers. You found the Backstory Podcast. I'm Harry Steele, the Backwoods Southern lawyer. We have a treat for you today. The Prodigal Son returns. Mr. Rushin?
Yep.
Covertly entered the state of Alabama.
In the flesh.
And will be the hell out of Dodge before this hits the internet. So,
yes, sir. Don't come looking for me. I won't be here.
Mr. Rip?
Here representing the Rip Report, and I guess since Range is here, we should start off with a Texas joke. This is an original of mine I learned in Belize. Do you know how you know if somebody's from Texas?
Oh, don't worry. They'll tell you.
That's it. That's the only people that says, my name's Jim, and I'm from Houston.
Oh, yeah. That's absolutely correct.
I'm telling you, in Belize, we get guests all the time. You know, say, where you from? I'm from Houston, Texas. I'm Ben, or something like that. Yeah.
That's absolutely correct, man. Living in Texas, they still do that.
You still do that.
How you doing? Bob Carter, Dallas, Texas.
Yeah.
All right, Bob. Pleasure to meet you. Rains Rushin, Greater Kingwood,
Wouldn't want to confuse you with one of them sons of bitches from down there at Plano.
Yeah, right. I'd hate to mistake you for the Bob Wilsons of Abilene.
Or, God forbid, a Methodist.
Right.
That's what we do. Hi, I'm Harry Steele. I'm Church of Christ.
West Texas.
So let's talk coronavirus numbers. Globally, 61,947,000 with 1,447,000 deaths. The United States, 13,155,000 cases with 265,000 deaths. And the trick of all tricks is our total number yesterday was 205,000 confirmed cases in one day, Mr. Rip. Does that scare the shit out of you?
It scares the hell out of me. I take it serious. I tell you that. I'm paying attention to it. I've put off going out of country on different trips, and I'm staying safe until I get that damn vaccine. And you can believe I'm going to take it.
That's one of the hallmarks of this particular trip that I've made. We purchased a car in Florida, and I literally got astronaut suited up to get on a plane.
I bet.
To fly right there, get the car. Like, I didn't even visit my in-laws. I picked up the car because my abuela is 91 years old, and I wanted to see her, my wife's grandmother.
Sometime in the future.
Yeah, I want to see her, next year, next Christmas.
Right.
And so I didn't even go in their house. I waved through the window. I didn't want to chance it. I got the car. I drove here. No contamination at all. I Lysoled myself. I mean, literally, this was just First World War, Mop 1.
Right.
And I get here, and I'll go to Mississippi and stay the night there, and then I'm driving home. And I'm not stopping, and I'm not visiting. I'm not doing anything. I came here to do this goddamn podcast. I don't know why I've lost my mind.
We appreciate it.
But I stopped on the way. It's a whistle stop. So,
so yesterday in Alabama, we had 1,500 confirmed cases, and by the end of the podcast, so right now, Paul, we're at 244,000 confirmed cases in Alabama. What do you think is going to happen? Let's discount Thanksgiving altogether.
Okay.
Folks are going to get together for this damn football game.
Oh, yes, sir. Today.
Oh, yeah.
So by the end of this weekend, we'll be at 250,000.
I think we're at 260 now.
According to the Alabama website, we're at 244 with only 3,500 deaths. Of course, when you have healthcare workers in capacity to care for people, the death rate is low. when the hospitals are overwhelmed, you're going to see.
I don't think you can. I don't think you can discuss it in virology terms like that, because the death rate, yes, it is linked to healthcare, but you have the IFR, the infection fatality rate, that is part of the pathology of the disease. I mean, it's gonna fluctuate by a percentage of a percentage point, but based on healthcare. But I mean, it's a 5% killer, or a 2% killer, or a 3% killer, regardless. So I think the death rate is going to be consistent no matter where you are.
Maybe, but it's just like the death rate went up in Italy when the hospitals became overwhelmed and there was no one to care for them.
And that's true. But in Houston, for example, we have as many people in Harris County, Houston, as you have in the state of Alabama,
and probably have.
And we have more hospitals.
Right, more hospitals in Houston than
we have more hospitals
in
in Houston. We have more hospitals in Houston than anywhere else in the country. We're the most medically dense.
Paul, did you go to MD Anderson ever for your cancer stuff?
No, a Veterans Hospital.
Well, we've got MD Anderson, we've got Kelsey Sebo, we've got everything. Yeah. We have more hospitals in Houston than any other city in the country, and our death rate is about the same as Baldwin County's.
Wow. Okay. Well, like I said, if we ever get over that ICU capacity, all bets are off.
Well,
right? And so one more thing, y'all can't see this graphic I have up. So Nick Saban will not be coaching the Iron Bowl today.
This year. That's right.
Because he had a false positive 2 weeks ago. Now he definitely has symptoms and will not be coaching the Iron Bowl today. So.
Well,
all my Auburn regalia is on display.
Well, Fairhope had to take a step back. We wrote a article, Take a Chance, a couple of weeks ago, the RIP report criticizing the lighting of the Christmas trees. And we were the first ones that came out criticizing it. And it was quite rewarding, actually, to hear such a public response from the community, from doctors, nurses, first responders, that inundated the Fairhope City Council and mayor with complaints. And one of the best ones I read was by a Dr. Jessica Walker, I believe, and she wrote that in the Baldwin Times, and she's an MD. And so as a result of that, they had to take the Christmas parade, which they were going to follow right after Thanksgiving as an open parade, large crowd, public crowd. Now that's going to be a drive-by, which is what we suggested. But I will say that the mayor shouldn't get all of the blame because the president of the council was in on this as much to try to take a chance. So hopefully nobody gets too sick. Now, one of the things that I found was that the mayor said, as we found during the tree lighting, you can't rely on adults to do the right thing they're supposed to do, she said. So we provide a safe event, but you have to rely on people coming to the event to do the things they're supposed to. If they don't, it creates a problem for all of us. First of all, it was a large public gathering that violated the health standards, and she is an adult and the mayor.
Hey, so let's talk
about... Don't be putting it on somebody else.
I want to talk a little bit about this lady because I think her bio is super interesting. So Jennifer Walker grew up in Mobile and Fairhope. She's a 2001 graduate of Fairhope High School. She went to Florida State University, graduated summa cum laude in biology, and has a minor in chemistry. Multiple academic awards, including top chemistry student of the year her freshman year, top senior female in academics, and a Howard Hughes computational biology research fellow. Probably one of the smartest damn people on the planet who've ever been.
Yeah.
Okay, and so she's wife material too, dude. Listen to this. She enjoys spending time with her family, friends, dog, reading, and swimming. She's earned a black belt and is active in community theater. An all-around person that I would lead credence to their opinion.
Sure.
Right. That's in the Baldwin Times paper, if anybody wants to read it. But they are going to now have the drive-by parade, and hopefully nobody gets sick from the lighting of the trees. So we'll see what happens. But also in the RIP report, we're mentioning...
Well, hold on 1 second.
Go ahead.
This made news all across the state.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this was... Yeah.
The tree lighting.
They got
severely bad at it. And you ought to see the drone footage from the thing. You couldn't have packed another person in that little square.
And the mayor addressed everybody without a mask on.
Let me ask you guys something. Do you know what a Mardi Gras Indian is?
No.
You ever heard of that? Harry, you know what a Mardi Gras Indian is?
Well, I'm an Indian and I've been to Mardi Gras.
No. The Mardi Gras Indian culture in New Orleans is incredible. If you don't know about it, you should look it up and get yourself deeply vested in it. The Mardi Gras Indians are groups of historically black parade crews who get together, and they have a chief, and they have a wild man, and they have a spy boy and a flag boy, and it's a deep-seated traditional Mardi Gras celebration. Okay? Yes, we all know that Mardi Gras started in Mobile, right? But
agreed,
it was perfected in New Orleans, okay? And the Mardi Gras culture in New Orleans is predominant, and the city understands what a economic boon it is and how they.
So what if people urinate all over the walls of your city?
Well, they've worked a lot of that out. It's taken them a few decades.
It's called Clearview AI. It's if you're on Bourbon Street, you're being tracked constantly by.
Well, that's the good thing about being on Bourbon Street during Mardi Gras. You don't move very fast. So the point I'm making is that the Mardi Gras culture is deep steeped, and not just, hey, we need this from a community economic standpoint, but it's a traditional way of life.
Well, it is in Mobile too.
Right. The Mardi Gras cruise, I mean, it's all part of the social hierarchy. And the reason I mentioned the Mardi Gras Indians is because they take it more seriously at a cultural level than anybody else. When the Mardi Gras Indians say, we're not going to mask this year, we're not going to march this year, because we don't want people to come to these events and risk spreading a disease. When the big chief says that I want you guys to look up a guy named Monk Boudreaux, Big Chief Monk Boudreaux. He was the chief of the Golden Eagle, one of the greatest Mardi Gras Indian troops ever. And he was not just a Mardi Gras chief. He wasn't just a Mardi Gras Indian chief. He was a true community leader. And if Monk was around today, he died just a few years ago. If he was around today, he would be the first one to say, we gonna mask, but we not gonna march.
Okay, so
because we don't want to put people in danger. When the Mardi Gras Indians say, we know that this is a deep-seated part of our cultural heritage, it's the one thing we live for every year, and they say, you know what, this year we're not going to do it because we don't want people to get sick and die. I can't wrap my head around people in Fairhope, Alabama saying, well, this Christmas tree lighting is a deep-seated part of our cultural heritage.
Okay,
so we can't possibly avoid it.
Let's talk a little bit of difference between the people of Louisiana and the people of Alabama. So one of our constitutional officers came out when this pandemic first started, and he said, we got to take this seriously. We got to shut stuff down. We need to do what we got to do.
Right.
He has paid a terrible price for that, and now he is saying we will not have another shutdown. What good? And even Governor Ivey said, what good is a life if you don't have a livelihood? Well, that's being rather obtuse, I think, but
truly
so New Orleans decided that they're not going to have Mardi Gras.
That's correct.
Mobile did not make that decision.
Well, they haven't made it yet.
Well, no. Yeah. All of the local crews have done what you're describing's happened over in Louisiana.
Right.
All the local crews have said, hey, we don't give a shit what the city says. We're not having our parade. If we do anything, we'll do a trunk or treat or some kind of bull crap like that. But we don't want 40,000 people coming to the MOT parade on, February 22nd.
Yeah.
Don't want that.
Don't get me wrong. There are people in New Orleans and Metairie and everywhere else that are saying, "Dog, this is BS." We got to have Mardi Gras. It don't matter what we do. We got to have this. There are opponents to it, but the conventional wisdom prevailed. And if you've got something that's so deep, if you know anything about the Mardi Gras Indian culture, you know that is a cultural thing. It is absolutely 100% cultural. It's not really having a whole lot to do with entitlement or any of that. It's generational, and it's an incredibly deep culture. If they say, you know what, we're going to skip it this year.
Being responsible.
Yeah,
what a good idea.
It's difficult for me to look at something like a Christmas tree lighting or a parade of homes, and people say, well, we can't not have that this year. It's part of our
Greater
tradition.
Gulf State Fair.
Yeah, it's we can't not have the Greater Gulf State Fair. It's so deep a part of our cultural framework. Bullshit.
Well, that's. I mean, I was glad to see the response from Fairhope. I was pleasantly surprised at the number of people that supposedly called, wrote, and raised hell with the council and the mayor about having that. And
your prejudice was reinforced by the groundswell of intelligent people who said this was a bad idea.
Right. Where were they hiding before? But I was very happy to hear that. And also Lanyap has a article in there about the modification to the Christmas parade and also litigation involved in Fairhope, but we'll wait and get into that in a minute.
Just one sec.
Okay.
So I wanted Raines to have the distinct pleasure of announcing that the transition for the 46th president has begun.
Well, the transition of government operation has begun.
GSA's appropriated money so he can pay
Correct.
staff and get
Correct.
telephones and
The inner workings of the infrastructure of the changeover is taking place finally.
And in January, people, there will be a swearing in for President Biden.
The deadline, the big day that I tell everybody to look for is December 14th.
Correct.
December 14th this year is the day that the Electoral College has their votes counted in the Senate, and that'll be that.
And hopefully everybody will calm down after that.
Hey, you hadn't shut down your Twitter, have you?
No.
You still have Twitter, so I'm showing
Of course.
everybody our Twitter handles so that
Okay.
they can follow us on Twitter and
Sure.
pick
At
up
Damn Dirty
information at Damn Dirty Rushin, at Backwood South 2, and at Rip Report. If you want to stay up with us between podcasts and see what might be on the agenda for the next podcast. So we talked about Dolly Parton help fund research into Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine. Everybody came out and said, "Oh, I've got a 90% successful vaccine. Oh no, mine's 94. Oh no, mine's 95." And who is it? Pfizer that's going back to?
Pfizer was the first to come out. They had a 91%.
So, but there's a recent announcement that
They've
somebody's
come back.
going back to
That's
clinical
Pfizer.
trials.
That's
It was
Pfizer.
Okay.
Yeah. Moderna's got the best efficacy right now. I think they're at 94 point something, which is pretty dadgum good. I think Pfizer's going to come back with a 96 maybe.
So
and yet there's people saying that they won't take the vaccine even if it comes out.
Well, that's just stupid. So 250,000 infections in Alabama by the end of the ball game. $1 billion in unspent COVID aid must be returned to the state by December 31st, if not spent. And Governor Ivey announced this Revive Plus, $20 million in grants, $20,000 max. You must have fewer than 50 employees, and there is a website up.
Harry,
And
why have you not applied for that money yet? Backstory Podcast has exactly one employee.
Two.
Oh, two. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot that in the last quarterly meeting we had doubled our personnel.
We're one up.
But why have you not applied for that?
Well, that's Mr. Rip is the owner of
Is there
Media. He
well
would have to
is
make
there
that decision.
is there an ethical issue that's keeping you from applying for that?
No.
I don't think so.
In fact, let me make a note.
Yeah, please, by all means. I think that as an exercise, I think that Backstory Media should apply for that money, and I think we should document the process.
What is it? What's the title on
The Revive grant.
Revive grant?
Revive Plus, REVIVE.
I'd like to see us
plus.
apply for that money and completely and 100% transparently document the process.
Okay.
And if we do get the money, we can donate it or whatever. But I'd like to show how easy or how difficult or just the process
That'd be interesting.
That would
of
be interesting.
obtaining that money. I'd like to document that.
So apparently there is the tiniest desk in the world that lives in the green room of the White House.
My God, did you see that? I thought that was a joke. I thought it was something photoshopped.
It's a legit. It looks like it's fine hand hewn mahogany.
It looked like I still cannot get my head around why they would do that.
Who was that tiny? Is that Herbert Huber's little desk they
Oh
put
my
in
gosh! No, hey, that thing was so. It was
It
like
looked
a
like an
little
end table.
It was like a TV tray.
Yeah, it looked like an end
You know,
table.
it's like that's what they put in front of him when he watches TV and eats. You know,
Yeah.
And like, why would you give it? And the presidential seal on the front of it.
Somebody liquid nailed it on or Velcroed it on there.
Oh, they probably just like double-ended tape and put it on the front. What? Come on, man. You got to be kidding me. I just died over that. I don't care who was in office. That would have been hysterical no matter who did it.
Really?
I didn't know
I
cannot imagine Ronald Reagan, or some towering, Trump's not a little guy. He's like 6'3" and 300 pounds.
Coming to the stage, and they had the little thing he could stand on.
Oh, the thing is, he stand up on the
him.
podium. Well, that was a Saturday Night Live skit, but he did have a step up on the podium because Mike Dukakis was only like 5'5", and oh my gosh,
And
yes.
Trump's like 6'3".
Trump's like 6'3" and 300 pounds,
And his knees are hitting the bottom of the desk.
It looks like a TV tray that you would eat. Like, there's a special coming on Saturday night. Let's all eat in the living room. That's what it reminded me of. I just can't imagine. That was, like I said, anybody, any president, any sitting president would have made that funny as hell to me. I could see Obama just kind of like looking at it. The hell is this? It's like, what, we're going to do it here? No.
All right. I want to hear some Rip Report because I have a doozy for you boys.
Well, before we get to, here's one article I want to cover that, we've been real critical of the judges in Alabama, and my belief is, particularly in Baldwin County, is that it's the judges that are interfering with the complaints to be it ethics, bar, or judiciary, or whatever. But a judge on Wednesday slashed former House Speaker Mike Hubbard's prison sentence from 4 years to 28 months. Now, Hubbard was convicted of 12 felonies when it was handed down a 4-year sentence, but 6 counts were reversed on appeal. So he has 6 felony accounts, and he had a 4-year sentence reduced to 28 months because of a judge. Now,
No. To be fair, he had 2 felony accounts. If you had 6 and 4 of them were repealed, those aren't felony accounts.
Let's see. Hubbard was convicted of 12 felonies while it was handed down a 4-year, but that 6 counts were reversed on appeal.
Okay, 6 counts. Well, that's what I'm saying. I just call it like it is. It's like he got charged with 50 crimes. He was only convicted of 2. Well, that means he was only convicted.
No, he was convicted, and then he 6 were reversed on appeal.
That's what I mean. 6 reversed on appeal. So he's only been convicted of 6 crimes that he's currently serving sentence for.
And there's people in jail for 1 felony, and they're in there for a longer time than Mr. Hubbard's going to be in there. Attorney General Steve Marshall expressed extreme disappointment, and Mr. Hubbard was convicted of an intentional violation.
Somebody woke that son bitch out of his crow sleep.
Yeah, really, out of Alabama ethics law, the same law he championed in the legislature, only later to brazenly disregard for his personal enrichment. Here's one thing that we'll switch over to Mr. Pittman here in a minute. But in upholding the conviction this spring, the justices noted that when contacting a company for one client, Hubbard identified himself as a state legislator and a Speaker of the House of Representatives. Now, the reason I reference Mr. Trip Pittman is that was always my bitch with Mr. Pittman, was he was a state senator representing Baldwin County, yet he was going around all of the municipalities soliciting business, and he was introduced as a state senator. If he was introduced as Trip Pittman, I own a tractor company, that's one thing. But if he walks in there as a state senator and I own this company and I'm looking for business, that's the rub. And that's where Mr. Pittman was as guilty as Mr. Hubbard, as far as I can see. And Mr. Hubbard now is reported he reported to jail in September. He's later moved to a state prison system. He is currently incarcerated at the Limestone Correctional Facility. Okay, so he went from 4 years to 28 months. Anybody want to make a bet that he's going to get out in even less for good parole?
Oh, sure, behavior? Of course.
Of course he will.
He'll come down one more time to get him out as little time as possible.
Yeah, no doubt in my mind. That's
a little reminder: those in Fairhope, take it to the curb. You've got until December 1st is when the final pass for debris and trash pickup. It's anticipated to be completed by December 7th. I think that's pretty optimistic, but maybe that will work. Also, a couple of little consumer notices. If you've seen these consumer warranties on automobiles and also on your car, be very, very careful before you get those. There's a lot of fine print in those things, and one is like on your home. You can have on air conditioning, for instance, you have an inside unit and an outside. You have an inside handler and an outside unit, and they're weighted or rated by ton. So let's say you have a 3-ton outside and you have a 2.5-ton inside. Well, there's a clause in some of these home warranty things that says, "Oh, well, we don't cover your air conditioner if both of them do not match." Other words, each one's 3. Well, in this area, it's not uncommon at all that they don't match. So that means they're not going to warranty it. I got a whole policy returned to me because of that. So watch out for that type of thing. Also, if you're interested, folks, in Lagniappe, Africatown History on 60 Minutes, the November 22nd episode, which is tomorrow night of 60 Minutes, will feature the schooner Clotilda and its final cargo of African-born captives illegally smuggled into America in 1860. The ship was scuttled upriver, and many of its survivors later formed the Africantown community north of Mobile city limits. That should be pretty interesting. As you know, Ben Raines did some featuring on that and writing as well. And also in Lagniappe, Getting Back to Whatever Suits You by Gabe Times. This is the Fairhope Modifies a Christmas Parade. We went over that. But what also is interesting is it's assigning the litigation attorneys. We have a new mayor there, and they have agreed to retain the firm of Hand, Arundel, Harrison, Sale. But Hand Arundel are the key words, and anybody that doesn't remember, it was Hand Arundel that represented the city on the Triangle lawsuit that we paid $3 million to accumulatively, never got a penny back, and they swore we get our money back. So now we're hiring the law firm that lost the largest case in Fairhope and cost taxpayers the most amount of money. That's who we're hiring. So I'm a little bit confused as to how that happened, but I think it has something to do with the council president. Another one that is very interesting that people probably hadn't followed is the Charter Oak Fire Insurance Company versus the City of Fairhope. This was filed in federal court, believe it or not, March 2019. The plaintiff seeks to indemnify itself from losses potentially incurred by the city in a separate lawsuit, Charles K. Breland versus City of Fairhope. In that case, which stretches back to 2001. I remember this from 2001. Breland claimed he was unlawfully prohibited from developing property off a Herd Road. According to a status report, October 30th, the appeal of Breland's case remains in the Alabama Supreme Court. If Mr. Breland was to prevail on this case, and he should, if he loses, it'll be politically motivated, he could sue the city for tens of millions of dollars because he has had one heck of a loss. One of the other cases listed is the Paula Donardi versus Ronan McSherry. Anybody's been listening to our podcast or familiar with that, we've got judges, lawyers, and everybody going out on a limb trying to get Mr. Ronan McSherry off while the victim is being victimized more and more. So we'll have to see where that gets towards the end. We have a pending lawsuit in Fairhope from the Attorney General. That's the Alabama Department of Environmental Management for illegal discharges over a period of years. Right.
Because the mayor was also the head of the utilities, and they used it like a slush fund and stole from it and spent it on flowers and shit instead of the sewer.
Right. And one of the other things that gets me, and this is, people ought to get pretty upset about this, RSA, Teachers Retirement Systems of Alabama versus Fairhope Planning and Zoning, filed in June RSA is seeking a writ of mandamus to compel the Planning Commission to approve its application for a 10-lot subdivision between 2 holes on the Lakewood Golf Course. Now,
so this is a little patch of woods between 2 fairways. It's a little diamond of woods, and they want to go in there and put a bunch of damn condos in it. Everybody down there is against it. The cities refused to do it. The counties refused to do it.
Everybody's against it. And the sliver of land that Harry's talking about, they're playing golf on both sides, and there's houses in between the middle.
It's like a place where all the water runs to.
Okay.
And they're going to go build a bunch of houses there.
And they don't like, RSA doesn't like being told
anything. And it was never
anything.
part of the plan for the golf course.
Never.
This is just, there's a patch of woods over here. Let's go build a bunch of damn houses.
So the city said no. The planning commission said no. The
neighbors
said no.
Especially the neighbors.
Everybody that had a vehicle to reject this idea has rejected it, and all of the powers that be, as far as the permitting process goes, have rejected it, and so now they're taking it to court.
Right. There'll be a bench trial set in February for it. And RSA has been doing this down by the Grand, doing whatever the hell they wanted to do with land down there, no matter what the citizens say. So it's going to be interesting to see.
That's true.
How they
do what they want.
They do what the hell they want.
Well, I'd like to see the results of that bench trial. So put a note next to that I'd like to get the results and the ruling. I'd like to see the ruling from the bench.
All right, so I want to stop Paul for a second, and I want to talk about something that really took me aback this week. So you were just talking about Senator Pittman, right?
Correct.
Former state Senator Trip Pittman.
Correct.
So I want to do a little Q&A with you. When he was the state senator back during the BP oil spill,
2010,
there was an emergency appropriation of federal funds to the state of Alabama for oil mitigation. We didn't know how much oil was coming. We didn't know how exactly we were going to do it, but there was a pot of money allocated.
Correct.
And Mr. Pittman was one of 4 people who were appointed by the governor to shepherdize these monies, right?
Mr. Pittman was the trustee for Baldwin County, the assigned trustee of Baldwin County.
Okay, so he then as the trustee, he appropriates money to the city of Fairhope, and the city of Fairhope turns around and gives him a no-bid contract for how much money?
That was $636,000
That was
for Fairhope, and then $98,000 he got from the city of Perdido. It came to a total of about $750,000. And he was operating a tractor company at the time, did not have a general contractor's license, didn't have marine insurance, and no marine experience, and was the acting state senator who was assigned to be the person in charge of the BP funds distribution, as well as the fact that Mr. Pittman made these applications for these contracts within 3 or 4 days of the oil spill before anyone knew anything about what the problems were going to be. He was that far ahead of it.
Okay, so Mr. Pittman, it's my understanding the reason there wasn't a bunch of hay made about this was he had proclaimed that he was not going to run again, that he was going to impose abide by a self-imposed term limit. So there was no will to go after him for this. And I'll show that at the end of this video, at the end of this podcast, I'll throw up the video. Were you there that day when the city attorney came in and said, with Mayor Kant, and it was, who was the attorney at the time? It wasn't Marcus. It was
Tut Wynn.
Tut got up there and said, "Oh man, we've looked at this. Everything was done on the up and up. Nothing to report. I've talked to So I'm driving down the road, listening to talk radio station over here in Mobile, and who do they have on? Guess who had Senator Trip Pittman on? And he was speaking to him as if he were the venerable senior
the elder statesman
of Gulf Coastal Alabama. Guess who that dipshit was?
Who's that?
Jeff Poore.
Good old Jeff Poore.
And remember people.
Sean Sullivan
My
had him on
historical
at
hero.
Midday Mobile shortly thereafter.
Right, and at the time, Mr. Pittman.
Like, why in the hell would a guy like this even be allowed in? Like, why isn't he publicly shamed by people? Why in the world would anybody put him on the radio to listen to anything he had to say?
Because I think this, a lot of this outrage is justified, absolutely, from an intellectual and academic standpoint. But if you look at the local and community spin aspect of it at the time, I can see how he could escape it. I can see how he could dodge it easily and justify it even. It's all a question of optics and management. Well,
he didn't manage it very well, ergo he didn't run again, and I
he
think,
cashed out.
I think every time he hears a siren, he wonders.
Well,
I think he cashed out, and in the
I think
last
he cashed
election,
out.
in the last election, he didn't receive. He received 7% of the vote, and
He ran for.
I'm thinking he ran against Bradley and them in that 2018.
That
Yeah, it was
sounds right.
Right.
in the
Special.
Right, but here's the key. Here's the thing that people keep forgetting, and they certainly should not forget it if you live in Baldwin County. What happened is, a great deal of the money that came from BP went up north. Once it got to Goat Hill, they divided up the money between the whole state. Well, Pittman was part of our legislative delegation. So we didn't get the money in Baldwin County that we were supposed to, or Mobile.
Sure,
But
wait.
he got $750,000.
I was no, Paul. I was going to say, sure you did. You got $750,000 that BP money, and he
Exactly.
shepherded it right into the bay.
That's right.
Right into his pocket.
That's
and
right.
you take the optics of that, and you say, you know what? This state senator gig. What does a state senator get paid? Like $4,000 a year?
No, it's
no.
like 50 now.
Yeah,
Get out of here! Really?
It's up there, yeah.
Yeah, it's not.
Well,
terrible
it's still
like
not
it
a
was.
it's still not a
It's not
decent
living-
salary. You can't live on that if you're doing anything else. So he's got a tractor dealership. And he's a businessman and he's making money. He said, you know what? It'd be real nice if I could put another $500,000 real quick in my pocket. And he sees an opportunity to spin it the right way and say, you know what? I can fleece the people of coastal Alabama.
But he's not going to get away with it with the three of us. Is
No, absolutely
course
not. I'm not in any way minimizing the outrage. I'm not in any way taking away from the wrongness of it.
Well,
I'm
just
saying
saying
at the time,
he's been
gonna,
a creative politician about it is the reason he's on the air with these dickheads across the bay.
Well,
and they'll do anything to fill their airtime. Obviously.
Well, I can
if
tell
they'll-
you.
I mean, we could get out a damn Ouija board and find out what the fuck Nixon thinks about everything, but I really don't care what Nixon thinks about anything. You know why? Because he lied and he's excluded from the conversation.
Right, and one of the reasons that he is not in office is not because he was looking at term limits, is because the court of public opinion has rode him down the road.
That's right.
For 10 years,
and we don't
in a
care
row.
what Trip Pittman has to say.
and that's fantastic.
With
I
people
think
across the bay that
I think it's absolutely
make money at
fantastic
this.
that the coastal Alabama court of public opinion hung former state senator Trip Pittman, Boom Pittman, that they hung his ass from the tree in the town square and ran him out of town on a rail, as the saying used to be. I think that's absolutely fantastic. Who's next?
And that was one of the reasons that Tim Cant lost his election, too, because he was in bed with Pittman when the whole deal went down.
That's great. So that's great. So the people of the people that listen to this podcast, the people that live within 100-mile radius of you, that's fantastic. Who's next? Why? Where's the outrage for?
Where's the outrage that he's not that nothing ever happened? That there was no investigation that
wait a
we
minute
were
now.
ever told about.
Wait a minute now. I can tell you about that. I filed a 133-page complaint. That complaint went to the FBI. The FBI met with me. They took the complaint. They made a thorough investigation. They had a grand jury. All the findings of that, they went to Mr. Pittman's office, took his records and his books. Same thing from the city of Fairhope. They sent it all up to the Attorney General, who was Luther Strange. Luther Strange at the time. But what happened right after then, or by the time the complaint got to the Attorney General, is they were trying to prosecute or not prosecute Mr. Hubbard. So Mr. Pittman fell in the cracks and got away with it because they were trying to hang Mr. Hubbard. You see what's happening with Mr. Hubbard. He's getting, sentence reduced one way after another. So that might have happened with Pittman. But Pittman really dodged a bullet. I mean, he really did. He should have gone down for that. And he betrayed the city. He betrayed the citizens of Baldwin County. And these people are having him on the air, giving him airtime, should have a little history lesson as to what he did to Baldwin County in 2010.
So Hubbard sent a email to the governor and basically said, "Governor, I'm losing way too much money by not being able to engage in certain contracts and do this kind of thing." So when they prosecuted, they got him on the stand and they said, "Well, my goodness, are y'all just starving to death? What's your wife do?" "Well, she's the dean of whatever at Auburn. She makes about $250,000 a year, and I made like $327,000. This guy's sitting there bitching because he's only making $550,000 a year, and that's what got him convicted.
Right.
That is what outraged those people on that jury, and the reason he was found guilty. More so than all of the things that he actually did.
Right.
So Baldwin County, Alabama, 2020, with Roscoe and Cletus on the goddamn bench, and who knows what the hell's going on around here. The resurgence of Trip Pittman is not outside the realm of possibilities.
You really
so
think
long as people listen, so long as people let the people like this get away with easing him back in the conversation. Now, what's the conversation that's going on right now? What do you think Mr. Pittman came on and talked about?
Well, I don't know, but if you're a Republican in Baldwin County, you should be on the phone to your representative and say, get his ass off the air.
Bridge. They're back
bridge.
on the bridge.
Oh, boy, here we go again.
Yes.
Here we
Business
go again.
Council of Alabama, blue tick hound dog for the crew. Trip Pittman is out there tracking it down, boys. We're gonna get this bridge done, and everybody's gonna remember old Trip one day. What a good old fella he is.
They're gonna wake up Zig Ziglar
Good
again.
old Trip. Yeah, that's.
Well, the other thing in the land
And
yacht-
eventually, they got to know that if law enforcement does nothing, these people will wake up with horse heads in their beds and shit like that.
Truly.
Like they can't imagine that good people are going to stand by while law enforcement and complicit judges do nothing.
Right.
You know.
Another article is
Horse heads.
Continuum of Care. Bay Briefs, Gabe Times Mental Health Crisis Center coming soon to Mobile. Have to give a shout out to State Senator Matt Simpson, former prosecutor, has been advocating for a mental health court in Baldwin County since last year, and said the crisis centers are an important
So
step
you know
forward.
what carpenters do when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Yeah.
So when you're a lawyer, you think everything should be handled through a court
Oh,
instead
well,
of through a.
That's not the way I heard that particular saying.
No,
Okay. Keep
no,
going.
no, really. I was going to say, where are you going? Mental health court in Baldwin County since last year said the crisis centers are an important
Why
step
just not
forward,
a mental health center? Why a mental health
increasing
court?
Access to care and diversions from jail. I think they put a lot of time and effort into this program. He said it's not illegal to be, I love this quote, it's not illegal to be mentally ill, and we want to give the opportunity for those people to receive treatment rather than be sent to jail. We have a hell of a mental health problem all over the United States. We're pushing it off on the police, and that is not right. We should not be asking the police to be handling mental health cases.
Paul, didn't the VA just open a major mental health project here in Baldwin County?
Yes.
I want to say I read that last week.
Yeah, I'm not sure where that is, but they did. They certainly did.
So it seems like we've got some serious brick and mortar, mental health care investment
Yeah.
in this area.
No.
Well,
No.
Only an MD who was our governor could have convinced us to shut down all of our mental health facilities in Alabama. That was Governor Bentley who talked us into this, and that's why we're in this damn crisis.
Oh, you're not going to blame it on Reagan for shutting down the federal mental health system?
Not necessarily.
That's what everybody else does. Everybody else blames.
I-
All the mental health professionals will blame Ronald Reagan for just flushing the toilet.
Here's the problem. I hold my local government people to account,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll hold my president to account every 4 years. But these are people that I interact with all the time, and they should listen to people who are concerned about what they're up to.
But you're absolutely correct about that. They should listen. Should double underline.
Should.
A couple of other articles. One about the sperm whale that was found in Mobile Bay. That was kind of interesting. And they say when these.
So I told Doodle, I was
Yeah.
like, if they let this bastard lay out there and languish much longer, I'm gonna bust out my 30-06 and.
No, he's died.
I know they finally euthanized him.
Oh,
But
right.
They euthanized him? I thought he just died.
No, this thing was out there suffering, running himself aground, and he'd swim a little ways and run himself aground, and just the pressure of their body.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not meant to operate at this depth, at the depth of Mobile Bay.
No.
But
And,
they say that's
sperm whales dive to hundreds,
Yeah.
1,500 feet.
80,000 feet, something
Yeah.
like that, to eat
Yeah.
giant squid and stuff.
Yeah.
Not supposed to be in the bay.
So, okay, well, I saw that. I just saw the photo of that story. I got a news alert about it. And I said, there was a sperm whale in Mobile Bay?
That's what I said.
I said, that's pretty wild. I mean, we don't
Yeah.
get a whole lot of sperm whales in the northern Gulf of Mexico.
Well, in Moby Dick, the sperm whale, they think it was an albino sperm whale. They
Right,
think
the great
that
white whale.
was from that. Also, a little article there about can't sail away. Dale Leash Carnival won't return to Mobile until March. I don't know anybody wants to jump on a cruise ship right now.
Did you see that they allowed a cruise ship to go out
Yeah.
full of journalists and everybody on the damn thing got sick?
Yeah. Yeah. And then
They hosted a bunch of travel journalists and like 20 of them came down with COVID
another article by
on the first cruise.
Just desserts.
Dale Leash is what Harry's talking about a while ago. Closures continue. COVID-19 pandemic impacts persist, but it also goes into explanation of the state grants that are pending.
Turkeys, and you know what to say about a high stepper. No step.
Do you know it was only like last week that I tracked that down and actually saw that it was from her turkey pardoning ceremony? I thought she actually was saying that about somebody all this time, and it's from the fucking turkey pardoning.
Exactly. Prescient.
Yep.
Amazing.
Anyway, everybody get a copy of their lanyap. You can get it online or you can get it free in your mailbox. News boxes around town. You can go on Lanyap and find out where it's distributed. It's about the only news that we're getting, and very, very, very good articles in there involving politics, music, and of course you got Shoe Station in there, ladies. So
Naturally.
there's something in there for everybody.
That's the best. That's one of the best. I have a lot of little tiny charges that I get on my account every month, and I recently got I got a program through my bank that helps me track all that. And man, it was a wake up call because I see that there's so many subscriptions that I pay like 99 cents a month for that I'd forgotten about. So it helped me clean up all that. But I'm here to tell you that paying $6.99 a month to lanyap.com is one of the best. To me, it's one of the most justified purchases I make every month. And I live in Houston, Texas, and I'm a faithful subscriber to the Baldwin County edition of the Lanyap. And I think it's if you're not paying that money to have unbridled access to it.
Quite literally, can you think of another place in the South that has two people like us talking about this type of local government corruption?
There's none that come to mind immediately. Like I'd like to think that somewhere in the
Well, I don't know that there's anywhere else with this much corruption either.
Well, I would like to think that some places like Central Mississippi, there's two guys trying to put together a podcast, and outside Amory, Mississippi, that are going after the Walthall County government with everything they've got. But it's like what Einstein said. It wasn't that Einstein, as someone said about Einstein. He said, it's not what kills me about Einstein being so brilliant is that there's probably somebody just as brilliant, if not more, that languishes in a sweatshop every year or works in a rice paddy that we'll never know. And so I like to think that there's others out there that would like to do what we do, but no one else was dumb enough to like totally shit the bed in their law practice and start a podcast.
Yeah, probably not the best business.
Yeah, it's a little bit
anyone's ever
different
made.
when you're
All right, so I got a Lanyap article.
on disability.
Speaking of monumentally stupid ideas, Nickels and Dimes by Gabriel Tynes. Expense report details Baldwin County legislative delegation allocation. So there's a special tax that's collected on rental of equipment. It's about $3.5 million a year, and the majority of it was going in. $1 million was going into a legislative slush fund where they would say, "Oh, I think we should give some money to the city or whoever."
Their discretionary spending fund.
Yes. So anyway, the money gets reallocated, some of it to the Baldwin County Economic Development Alliance, some of it to the DA's office. You know, we're playing nice because we want to share this money. So, Paul, were you aware that there was an unfinished upstairs area of about, 4,000 square feet on the second level of the Fairhope Satellite Courthouse?
Right. I think that was the first task the tax man went after, was to update that.
Right. So they had been in this little dirty little building up here in Bay Minette, just somewhere. There wasn't any money to rent anything for them, and they wanted to have a spot. So anyway, now they've gone in and renovated that 4,000 square feet. It's Class A office space. All of the senators and representatives have a skyline view.
Right.
All their offices are around the perimeter, so they all have a window. It's all oak, mahogany, finest, as good as money can buy. They spent $1 million finishing that space out for these guys. They just finished it, and one of the issues in here was, separately, Elliott disputes a rumor that he used excess delegation funds to substantially furnish his new office on the second floor of the Fairhope.
Of course.
I used my own money.
He did a Ron Swanson. He just went up there and did it.
Anyway, this is just another example of there's plenty of damn money out there to do things like build bridges and stuff, but we're pissing it away on Class A office space for guys who already have 3 other offices.
Right.
Remember, they got an office in Montgomery.
And we never hear from the legislative.
And there's an office in Bay Minette, and then there's an office on the second. Now, do you think any of them are ever going to darken the doors of this POS office they have up here in Bay Minette? Of course not. They're going to meet down with everybody down in Fairhope on the second floor in the Taj Mahal.
When they do meet with them.
As our actual courthouse rots to the damn ground and people walk around breathing pigeon dung spores.
Before you take it too much further, let me tell you about a little town right around where I live. It's called Cut and Shoot, Texas.
Cut and Shoot. I've heard of that.
That's the actual name of it.
Yep.
It's Cut and Shoot, Texas. And it's very small. It is it's literally a stoplight. And they have, one of the things that's famous about Cut and Shoot is that their post office has a nail salon in it. And so what it is actually, the nail salon was there before, and they just put the post office in the nail salon because it was the only building that met code in the municipality of Cut and Shoot. I think their annual budget is somewhere around $60,000.
Oh, that is small.
I mean, it's tiny.
Yeah.
It's a symbolic kind of place. They have their own Hells Angels chapter, believe it or not, because everybody wants the Cut and Shoot cut. But anyway, it's like the city hall is a temporary building,
Okay.
right? It was literally a house trailer before that, and they had one police car, and they decided that one police car was too expensive, and so they just parked it in front of City Hall, and it's like a planter now, like flowers grow out of it, and because they were like, we'll just go under the purveyance of the county sheriff. We don't need to be paying a policeman to patrol Cut and Shoot. Nobody listens to him anyway. The point is, the city of Cut and Shoot has a bunch of very, let's call them the clay of East Texas, just the salty clay of the earth kind of people that live up there, a lot of verisimilitude up there, some real rustic, authentic frontier gibberish kind of shit,
Right.
And so, but my point is that
I'll take you right up here to Padita. You can meet the same type of people.
okay, and I get it, but the thing is that in Cut and Shoot, when they wanted to move the post office into its own facility, they were going to have to spend like $15,000 to get part of this building up to code so it could be separate from the nail salon. The people in Cut and Shoot raised hell. Show us how you're going to spend $15,000 on this, because Bob over here built his dang shed for $500, and he'll come in here and he'll do it for $500. And since we know he can do it for $500, we want to see the son of a bitch who put a $15,000 price tag on it and run that asshole out of town. That's how the people in Cut and Shoot are. Why aren't the people here just absolutely raising holy hell about slush funds like that?
They're totally disconnected from politics. It's the damnedest thing I've ever seen. I mean, I was really surprised to see the reaction on the COVID thing with the lighting of the trees, that so many people spoke up, because most of the time you can't get them to get pissed off and get out there in front of anything. You know?
All right, so last time we were here,
yeah,
I gave y'all a little foreshadowing. Remember, we talked about Justice Alito saying that the COVID measures are an infringement upon blah, blah, blah,
Correct.
blah.
Right.
Okay, so while I believe that the ruling was correct, and Raines and I had a conversation
we had
about
this conversation
this
last night.
My mind runs to the internment of the Japanese during World War II. Ultimately,
you're setting this up all wrong.
They decided, okay, we'll go for it. You go for it.
The conversation we had last night was about the Supreme Court ruling in the Catholic Diocese of New York versus Andrew Cuomo's state of New York et al. All right. And the Supreme Court ruled that the COVID restrictions set forth by the governor's executive order were not constitutional, violated the Fourth Amendment.
And this is Amy Coney Barrett's first weigh-in.
Right. There was only two dissenting opinions.
And that was Kagan and Sotomayor?
Elena Kagan and Justice Sotomayor. And I read both of the dissenting opinions, and I've got to say, I realize the dissenting opinions hold water, but I was in favor of this opinion, and because I believe that constitutionally you can't really get into the murky waters of we're going to do this for the betterment and for the good of humankind now, because the thing that I told you last night was my first argument against that was, where were you during internment?
Well,
where were you waving the Constitution when we were locking up people of Japanese descent?
They kept their damn mouth shut because they were just as afraid that
everyone was
Japanese
terrified.
were going to walk into every store in the country and blow themselves up.
And we allowed that to happen under the same guise of emergency powers, under the same guise. And where were you waving the Constitution in our faces when that was going on? To me, that's the problem.
It is the problem.
To me, that's the problem, is that it's right now it's convenient to be a constitutional traditionalist because it allows you to conduct yourself in a way that's pre-pandemic, which is what everybody wants. Well, the majority of Americans want. Right. And it's like, because Paul and I we're talking about it earlier, the majority of Americans don't care about anyone but themselves. They'll be the first ones to say, well, what about all the people dying in China and in Europe? I don't give a shit about the people in China and Europe. Well,
that's the problem.
You should.
That's the problem.
A human being, you should care about other humans. You should care about everybody. They don't. No.
The comments we got on the ripreport.com, quite a few of them are, I am not concerned. I have a 2% chance, or I have a 3% chance of getting it. It's not thinking about the other people that maybe you're transmitting to. Very, very selfish attitude. I got about 3 more things on Fairhope.
I got one quick one.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Joe Scarborough says Republican Party in its current form, he will not be back.
Yeah.
And I think I don't understand the doubling down on the Trump thing.
All right,
He's done.
One of the things
He's
that
through.
Cool.
However,
let's get back to traditional conservative values.
Here's the problem. He is now a third-party candidate when it comes to fundraising.
That's right.
Right now, this is what I wanted to get you to record more of the podcast last week because I wanted to bring this point up and I didn't have time. Trump is out. That doesn't mean he's not Trump anymore. He is still the head of a cult of personality. He is standing on the precipice of being able to siphon major Republican donors away from the Republican Party to form his own cultish PA super PAC.
Okay.
Now, if I am the Koch brothers and I'm standing there going, look, how are we going to finance the Republican National Committee? How are we going to finance the GOP? I'm seeing Trump as a danger to that after he leaves office. Yes, he'll be out of the presidency, but he will be a major force in Republican politics. He can siphon a lot of money. He's going to need a lot of money. He can siphon a lot of money that could be going to the Republican Party, and they see him as a threat to that. I think that's the emerging conflict that we're seeing among Republicans right now.
I do too.
It's not from an idealistic standpoint, it's from a strictly financial standpoint. And they're worried that he is just going to be a magnet for the wild money, they call it. The dark money that you get has channels, right?
Right.
And he's going to turn a lot of those channels toward him. He already has. So the hard money is, of course, going to go to the GOP.
If you want to piss your money away, give it to Donald Trump.
But you know how many people are doing that? How many millions of dollars were donated to his campaign to overturn the election, to fight the legal rights of all Americans? Tens of millions of dollars raised in a week. It's only been 3 weeks, Harry. Who raises tens of millions of dollars in 2 weeks?
Somebody that's got a bunch of cult followers.
Exactly. And that's money that the GOP is seeing as not only not on the table, but gone forever. Like we're not going to be able to wrangle those donors back.
Right.
Okay, so I want to talk about the Snake Oil Award.
For?
Well, the latest snake oil, that you buy something for one purpose and it has zero medicinal value.
Right.
Snake oil.
Yeah, but
So this is the city of Fairhope's going to spend $30,000 to create an app, a public safety app for the city of Fairhope.
Okay.
You gonna download that and put it on your phone?
What's the purpose of the app?
Hell if I know, so they can communicate with the public.
And they're only spending $30,000 on it?
that's
Look,
not
dude.
bad.
That's not much of an app. What does it do? Is that like one of those apps on your phone that you activate the app and it turns your phone screen a different color? That's what a $30,000 app is.
That's about what it sounds like.
You hit it and it just says Fairhope across your screen. Hooray.
It might bring up, I guess, public safety. Maybe they'd be advising people not to go to the parade.
I guess. I mean, the city of Fairhope is not exactly the hotbed of crime. I never saw cops Fairhope.
It is a emergency communication tool.
Now, something like that as a voluntary app, yes, I get that because that's a valuable tool.
Yeah.
And if the city's only paying $30,000,
I'm so glad that this money for coronavirus is going for all this bullshit, and I really can't believe that you two guys are okay with it.
Well, I'm going to get my 20.
It's graft.
Start making masks. I don't give a shit what you do.
Do what you got to do.
But don't spend it on something that has no value whatsoever in this pandemic. Because you know what? All Fairhope's going to do is say, come out to the Christmas tree lighting.
Well, if you think $30,000 is a lot, people in Fairhope better wake up and watch the waterfront project, which is $6.2 million. That came from BP grant. That's for the waterfront. It's for stabilization. It's for ADA compliance, which Mayor Kant 8 years ago was told to comply with and never did. And I think there's been 300 or 400 participants already. the swimming area and the jetties came out real high as what people wanted. But now we've had an election, and we have the mayor and the president of the council saying, well, they're going to do this and they're going to do that, and they don't like this and they don't like that. And you have till the end of the month, no more public meetings, nothing else. Anything you want to contribute to it, you've got at less than 2 weeks to write a letter. So I'm wondering what happens to all those people that have already taken part in all of these meetings. So watch that $6.2 million project there. And the other thing to watch is the Buddy Breland lawsuit. I can assure you that is huge. And also the Paula Donardi lawsuit. Everybody in town should be asking themselves, what in the hell is going on?
Absolutely.
And no one, any woman in town, why in the world you would go to Mac Sherry's for anything, I don't know. So watch those issues.
If you miss your abusive ex-husband.
Yeah, go hang out.
Yeah.
You know, I got to tell you, if we weren't under this incredibly suffocating pandemic right now, on this little whistle stop through, I would go and just to say that I had hung out in the Christmas club.
Get you a Jack Burrell sandwich,
you
man.
know, I'd go down there and get me a Burrell sandwich and just say that I'd been there.
Oh, that's at McSherry's. Now that the Christmas club is where McSherry assaulted Donardi.
Yeah, but I just it's like visiting the turn in Dallas. You know, I want to be there. I want to feel the scene of the crime.
The little Christmas club.
The corruption. The Baldwin County corruption tour.
You know exactly. Let's go. Let's do that. Start at the coal ash pond and just kind of work our way out.
And those of you that really, you think we blow up corruption too much, you can go to Lanyap, go to their series, and look up Straw Man, and you can read about
one of the best.
Yeah, Fairhope
one of the best
City
pieces of journalism.
Yeah, Fairhope City Councilman involved in one of the largest land frauds in Baldwin County. We don't have a district attorney or anyone else, sheriff. No one is looking at it. It's in paper for everybody to read, and no one does a damn thing.
Well, here you talked about we've got all this Corona money. We've got all this coronavirus money, $1 billion that the state's going to have to give back. Let me do what I do so well.
Piss me off.
I knew a kid that got in a car accident when he was a young man. All right, and he was given a settlement from a civil settlement as a result of that car accident, and his father worked out the details with the attorneys on the settlement, and his mother, who was also injured in the car accident, she was part of it, but the father worked out the deal. And he said, look, the settlement is, according to the attorney, the settlement is for damages as a result of the accident. So if this kid has to have, it was like $20,000. And they said if this kid, like 10 years from now, has to have knee surgery or something, that's what this money is for. We can't just spend it on whatever. It has to be, the judge has said that this particular settlement has to be spent on just medical stuff that's basically punitive in the future for this kid. Well, the kid turned 18 and said, hey, we never spent any of that money I got. And they said, well, we did. We bought some crutches and we bought,
right,
rehabilitation services at one point. There's still like $10,000 left in there. And the kid said, well, what's going to happen to it now? And the attorney said, well, the family attorney said, well, it's yours. You can do what you want with it. Turns out that you could have done what you wanted with it all along. There were no conditions on that settlement.
Okay.
The father just kind of made that up. So he wouldn't, and his wife wouldn't be tempted to spend this incredible windfall of money. Okay. Now, was that opportunistic financing or was that fraud?
Well, since it's
depends
his father.
Yeah, it depends on if he was.
I like opportunist financing.
Yeah,
was it opportunistic financing or was it fraud?
Facts to say
okay, well, I just want you to examine the concept, because whenever you think about what we could do with that $1 billion, I want you to think about that kid.
Yeah,
and that trust.
Right.
Now, was that creative financing, opportunistic financing, or was that fraud? And I think that's what you need to use as a yardstick against anybody who wants to touch federal money. Just putting that out there.
Well, that's it from me, Harry.
Well, I'm not prepared to talk about it this time, but I did want to give everybody a little taste of Alabama Unity 2022 team and platform. We'll flesh that out a little bit more on the next one.
Yeah.
What is the 2021 World Games?
Is that like
I saw that
Paralympics?
advertised.
I saw a giant sign when I crossed onto the Alabama state line that said "Home of the 2021 World Games," and it was a big interstate sign, really big.
Yeah,
dude.
right there at the Florida line. I noticed it last time I was over.
It says the 2021 World Games will be in Birmingham, Alabama. The World Games is a multi-sport event staged every 4 years by the International World Games Association under the patronage of the International Olympic Committee. The 11th edition of the World Games will be held in Birmingham, Alabama, July 15th through the 25th, 2021.
So is this like the
frickin'
knockoff Olympics?
I guess they don't even have a swimming pool in
Oh,
the indoor swim. Like,
yes, they do.
At
Oh, in
UAB.
Birmingham they have a natatorium up there.
I got two natatoriums.
Oh, they have two
they
now?
got
I remember-
a real big one by the old racetrack on the west end there.
Right.
And in fact, it's quite a facility.
That's the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, that's quite a facility.
That's been out there for a
really.
while.
But first natatorium was the old one was at Birmingham Southern. Of course, they had one at in Tuscaloosa too. But Birmingham's equipped to handle those games, and also by 2021, let's hope that's far enough in to the year that the pandemic doesn't affect it.
Hopefully
And
so.
Maybe those games.
I am not a fan of the Olympics. I'm just not. I just don't. I understand what it is, and I don't in any way take away from the remarkable achievements of the athletes. To me, it's just not entertaining to tune into on a regular basis. However, I do agree with a lot of people that say that, and even with these World Games, I would probably pay more attention if they would allow what's called the average Joe category, to where in every single event, you allow a regular person who's just good at that particular thing to go out there and compete alongside the Olympic athletes, just to give you an idea of how incredible those people are. It's like, you think, that's what I did a bit when I was doing comedy. I did a bit about the Olympics. It's like, I love it how we'll sit, and watch this 13-year-old gymnast who's worked out like 10 hours a day for the last 10 years. Every single day, who has just powderized, compacted bone in her body. Right? And she'll get up there and she'll execute this movement, and at the end she might stumble a little bit, and some lard ass with a half a Domino's pizza.
She couldn't stick it.
God dang, she couldn't fucking stick it. Good, well, some bitch. That's it for her. I think they need that average Joe category just to give you an idea of how incredibly superior these Olympic athletes are.
Gymnast girl?
Simone Biles.
Oh, my God in heaven. Watch her. She just defies gravity, everything. I can't even fathom how you get to the point that you learn something like that.
Paul, she's from where I live.
Really?
In Texas, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And when I was a bartender, she would come into my place every now and again. I swear to God, she's like this big.
Just tiny.
She's just a tiny, tiny thing, but she is like carved out of wood.
God, I bet.
Dude, like she gave me a hug once, and it was like somebody had just wrapped cables around me. I was like, Jesus Christ.
Incredible
I feel the
to
love,
watch.
but good grief.
All right, Raines, I got one more story.
What you got?
And it's just for you. A New Jersey school board member resigns after she carries her laptop into the restroom with her, and students and parents and everybody at the PTA meeting watched her go to the bathroom.
Yep.
What? What do you mean?
She didn't
Turn the computer
She didn't
off?
turn the computer off. Like, I guess she was doing something else on the computer that she wanted to carry with her to the bathroom, kind of like, you take your phone in there.
She thought she'd turn the camera off and she'd turn the microphone off, and she carried the laptop in the bathroom.
I don't think it was a laptop. I think it was a tablet she was on.
That reminds
It was a tablet
me.
she was on.
That reminds me of a friend of mine in
It's like
Birmingham.
Naked Gun.
The Naked Gun. Oh, thank God.
45-minute leak.
I was in Birmingham, and a friend of mine handed me his phone, and it's a picture of a nude woman. You can't see her head, and under it says, "Guess who?" And he looked at me and said, "That's a trick question. Don't ever answer that question." These people are sending nudie pictures of each other everywhere. I hope you understand that is out in the air once you send it.
It's in the ether.
Right.
And as they say, law enforcement can get your luds without a
Right when you
without
think
its
it won't
warrant,
show
so-
up, it'll show up.
I just tell everybody, I said, look, like I tell my son, I said, look, son, if you do what you want to do and you live your life the way you want to live it, but I'm going to tell you right now, if they had camera phones when I was a kid, I
Oh, my
wouldn't
God.
have made it out of the 8th grade.
Oh my God!
Oh,
All right, I'd have had to have left the country.
Yeah.
Okay,
And with
that's
Photoshop and shit. we'd
oh
have
my
been
God,
through.
can you imagine?
Can you imagine the posters we'd have posted all over the school of the principal and famous pornography
Just
posters?
the
with
opportunities. I look back, you know.
Well, that's all I got, Harry.
Well, we are no longer stymied by technology, gentlemen, and the
Truly.
spoken word carries as much. Well, hell, you don't even have to be able to hear. You can just watch us read the transcript as it flows across the bottom of the screen. So, you headed back to Mississippi?
I'm
What's the
gonna
plan?
I'm making a rest stop in Mississippi. I'm actually going to because of my ridiculous and immature sleep patterns, I am gonna stop in Mississippi and like get a full night's sleep. And I'm gonna do that, and then I'm gonna continue on to Houston, because like Mississippi from Tampa to Houston, you know, Biloxi is basically the halfway point. So I'm gonna I dropped in here to do the podcast, and I appreciate your hospitality for.
Well,
letting
I'm
me
so proud
crash
you
you
didn't
last night.
burn the damn house down while you were here.
Yeah,
Like,
and it's good. I mean, I didn't. I promised you I was going to be on my best behavior, and I did tell them that while I was driving down old Pensacola Road to get here last night, that was the longest part of my trip, because I actually slowed down to do the speed limit because I was worried about hitting a deer, because there was no cars on the
as
road.
you should be.
But a car got behind me while I was driving there, and I definitely drove the speed limit because I said, can you imagine the face of some Baldwin County deputy pulling me over? Oh, look at who we have here, Mr. Machete
It's the old
himself.
tater salad.
Here comes old loudmouth Rushin. Really want to talk all that shit about the boss. Hey, Sheriff, why don't you come on down here on this remote country road and see who we got pulled over? That was an honest concern. I didn't feel like one of the Freedom Riders or anything, but, you know, it was an honest concern when I was driving through the backwoods of Baldwin County last night.
Your spidey senses were tingling.
They were
I
like,
don't wanna get pulled over here."
don't get pulled over around here, partner.
So, Paul, your weekend plans. Iron Bowl starts in 4 minutes, boys.
I'm going to be doing tile work, and then I am still cleaning up from Hurricane Sally. And then Monday morning, I go to my second home VA hospital in Birmingham for some tests, and back again and talking to some lawyers up there about taking on a case that we're working on, trying to help someone, which we'll be discussing in depth later.
If only you knew a good attorney, Paul.
We only knew a good one. We know one, just not much good.
Got to get out of Baldwin County.
No kidding. All right, so Iron Bowl in the next few minutes. Everybody enjoy it, and check us out on Facebook.
Be safe and wear a mask.
Roll Tide. I can't believe I got to say that in your house.